trying to give you all the money back they stole from you.
Jesus. I doubt that.
So, Paulie, I'm just going to reiterate what we did yesterday at the press conference and earlier today. I'm going to pass you along, and I just want to know your thoughts and how you feel about being here in Belfast, and what your thoughts are at ProBox TV for here, for Waterford, and for the next year.
First of all, it's my first time in Belfast so far. It's been a really good time. I've been received very well. You guys are great boxing fans, and you know, I'm not surprised. You know, in the UK, there's always been excellent boxing fans throughout my career. So you coming here and seeing the passion and emotion, you know, at the events we've done, and you know, just the fun in general, you know, and being received very well. I really appreciate it. It's been no surprise why Gary Jones, our pro boxer, wanted to come over to the UK and start doing shows here as well. You know, as far as ProBox TV is concerned, you know, for any of you that are not familiar with the channel, I mean, we are one of the fastest growing boxing channel, if not the fastest growing boxing channel in the world. It's a worldwide app. It's for free, so download it. You know, you boxing fans out there, you know, we have daily talk shows with myself, Chris Algieri, Jimmy Smith, and Teddy Atlas, and Tim Bradley, and Sean Porter. You know, we have daily shows. That alone is worth it, because we talk championship boxing, we talk everything. And then of course the live events. And we're doing this live event this week here from Belfast. We hope to keep coming back to the UK. Obviously we have our live shows back in the States as well. It's that middle tier, which is so much missing in boxing. A lot of people just watch championship boxing, but that middle tier is a grooming ground for championship boxing. And it is where a lot of the talent lies. It's where a lot of the best fights lie, because we can make so many great matchups at that middle tier. So, you know, I've really been enjoying working for ProBox TV. We hope that you continue to enjoy watching us. And like I said, tell your friends about us. The more downloads we get, and the more you tell your people about us, the better the fights we can bring you. We've been growing, we've been giving you more fights, we're giving you better fights. If you've noticed, especially if you've been following us for a while, our fight, the level of our fights has been getting better and better. That's why we're here this week, and I think we'll continue to grow. The more downloads we get, and like I said, it's free, guys, so go ahead and download it. And the more support we get, the better the fights we can bring you, and we really look forward to continued growth.
Cheers, Paulie. Thank you. Chris, is this your first time in Belfast?
Yes.
So, along with you know, obviously we want to hear your thoughts on Belfast and mirror to Paulie, but also I'd love your input on the alcohol that you've been tasting so far. I know you've been having a good bevy since you've been here, lad, so I'd like to fill everyone in on your alcoholic experience so far.
Split the G.
Yeah, so listen, I'm gonna second everything that Champ Malignaggi said. I hate following this guy because he just goes from top to bottom. He covers everything like a real pro. But yes, I mean, ProBox TV. The reason we're on the road is we're following the fans. The best, we say it on our shows all the time, the best fans in the world are UK fans. We both fought in the UK. We understand how much you guys actually understand the sport. The boxing IQ of the fans in the UK is completely different than the rest of the world. So that's why we're here. Our first stop on the road is coming here in Northern Ireland. You guys have been fantastic. It's been a tremendous time for all of us since we've been here. And listen, we got great fights coming too. I love how Paulie always brings up that we do the indie shows. I always forget about that because obviously we're here for fights. Yeah. And calling fights is literally my favorite thing to do. It's probably your favorite thing to do as well. Our shows are fun. They're great. I got to talk to this guy every fucking day, which is fun. But at the same time, I like calling fights. I want to be at fights. There's nothing better in the world for me to be ringside, best seat in the house, telling you guys how I feel and what I see on fight night. And the fans love that too, so that's what it's all about for us. And then just the fan base here has been tremendous. I mean, everyone that I've come across they've been fantastic fans, really good people. The Guinnesses are definitely better here than the States. We pour beers like shite over in America. So I don't know what the disconnect is of traveling across the pond.
And he splits the G.
I'm learning. I drank about 25 of these in the past 2 days. I've split about 3 Gs. So it's not a great percentage, but I'm getting there. But regardless, I think the fan base here is fantastic. This is something that we're going to make a regular thing out of because, listen, ProBox TV is all about making good fights. great matchups, 50-50 fights. We don't care who wins. We want the fights to be good. You go out there, you perform, you come back. So, and that's what the fans want. Entertainment. That's what sports are about. It's not about keeping an O. It's not about protecting your O. It's about fighting hard, going for it, being a warrior, and the fans here understand that. So we are happy to bring Pro Box TV over here to where the fans actually understand what they're watching.
What the fans understand what they're watching. I want that tattooed on me. That's fucking a great line, that. So, Anthony Crolla, former world champion. There's 3 former world champions here, and it's obviously a privilege to be stuck with you. And you've been, you know, your gym has got quite a few on in Waterford. We've got Robbie on. You're training them now. So I'd like to ask you, one, your thoughts on being here in Belfast, and what do you think of Pro Box TV? And what it's done. You've been over to our headquarters in Tampa already, and what do you see for Pro Box TV coming to, you know, the boxing fans over here?
Good evening, everyone. Listen, I've been over to Plant City where the headquarters is, and what Pro Box TV doing, I think anyone who's not familiar with it, just check it out. I genuinely mean it when I say, as a boxing fan, week in, week out, I'm just getting 50-50 fights, and not just because they're next to me. I think you've got 2 of the very best callers in the game next to me, Algieri Paulie Malignaggi, and they say it how it is. I probably wish I was a little bit more like them, where there's no bullshit with them. Also good looking, but there's no bullshit with them. The very street talkers, we call it as it is. But no, some great fights. I mean, I was there, was it in May? And I think Paulie mentioned it at the press conference there. I was with Robbie Davies Jr. who fought Sergei Lipinets, and it was one of the best fights I remember seeing. And you know, Robbie come up short that night in an unbelievable fight, but they brought him back in another real fight again on Friday night in Gabriel Fortuna. So, like Chris just said, if you perform, they'll bring you back, and I think that's a great thing. I think it's great they're doing a show with the guys from Conlan boxing. We're playing a huge part with boxing over here in Ireland. So yeah, no, I'm very excited to be here, to be part of it. Hopefully I get over for that show in Waterford as well. But no, Belfast is one of my favourite cities in the world. I genuinely mean that. I don't know if anyone, is it my first Belfast experience, Big Roger, Martin Rogan, do you remember him? Yeah, he with Sam Sexton at the, I think it's called the Odyssey then. And the atmosphere, honestly, it was when Rogy's eye come out here in the first fight, and it was one of the best atmospheres I've ever been in. So Belfast is a very special place for a fight, and it's great to be here again. And I'm looking forward to Friday night.
Cheers, what I wanted to oh, United have just scored.
We're back. We're back.
Yeah, no, just make it happy there. Like, trying to be nice here. Doesn't happen very often. But I think what you said about Robbie really sums up what Pro Box TV is about. You'll struggle to find a better fight than the Lipinets fight. It was a fucking banger, mate. Let's cut the bullshit. It was a fucking banger. So a lot of promoters and other networks, you get rid of you. You lose a fight like that. Oh, you lost to Sergei Lipinets. That's it. See you later. Not Pro Box TV, mate. You were in a banger. We reward you for that. And he comes back against the former world champion and Javier Fortuna. And we're bringing this fight here. We've got a Scouser against the Dominican in Belfast. Do you know which is a bit mad, isn't it? But it's a great fight. Boxing fans here want great fights. So that's what we're looking to deliver, and I feel like it's good for boxing. You go back to the old fighters, Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Frazier. If they took a loss, they came back. Muhammad Ali got beat by Leon Spinks, came back, became world champion. And that's what boxing should be. So I think what we're going to say is, like Guinness, you need to fuck the O's off. And it's all about getting stuck in and having a good time, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to open the floor now. I'm going to come round. If anyone wants to put their hand up and ask a question, please let me know. And I'm going to come round and keep it clean, like, you know what I mean? Any questions? No? Great. This was a waste of fucking time, wasn't it? Alright, I'm just gonna start from myself, and if you want to ask anything, please feel free to put your hand up. Paulie, I'd like everyone, by the way, it's a very Italian line up here, isn't it? Because with Pro Box fucking Italy launching. So, Paulie, I'd like everyone, if you don't mind, tell us about, you know, you've headlined at Madison Square Garden, you've been to Ukraine and got a result, something the Russian government can't currently do. You know, so, what was your greatest night in boxing?
I think there's obviously win world championships. I think all the guys on the stage would say, you know, that the most memorable night is the night they won world championships. But you know, I think when you go through the ringer of a boxing career, you have a lot of check marks you check off at the top. You know, it's not just from day one to being a world champion. There's a lot of, you want to win a certain amount of tournaments in the amateurs. You want to get to your pro debut. You want to, win your regional titles or something. And then eventually, there is a goal to win a world championship. But I don't think you think about that right off the jump. But yeah, when it all starts coming together, it's pretty amazing. That's and also the experiences, like you said, fighting in different arenas, different places all around the world. I think that's one of the underrated things about boxing. For anybody who does that, is you get to travel to places that you probably would have never seen in your life, And I've gotten to travel all over the world because of boxing. Something that was way, way foreign to me before I started boxing. I'm seeing places that, I would have never in my life thought that if you would have told me when I was young, you'd be seeing this or seeing that, or even performing in this arena or that stadium or this stadium. So, there's a lot you can look back on fondly. It's a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and a lot of pain too. But you know what? In the end, you make memories for a lifetime, and that's something that I think everybody can relate to. I think living a life where you can make as many memories as you can, you look back on it and say you did certain things with no regrets. I think that's something I think everybody can relate to. Man, I know not everybody's going to be a pro fighter, but I think everybody can relate to wanting to make a life full of good memories.
Thank you. Chris Algieri, you went from world kickboxing champion, transitioned perfectly to world champion. You won it in Brooklyn, in New York. Was that your greatest night? And what's the greatest thing you've got from boxing?
That's a great question, because a lot of people ask me that, like, oh, was that your greatest night? That had to be your greatest night. And I always say no, it wasn't. Every one of my world titles was my greatest night. I got 2 world titles in kickboxing, and at the time when I won those, it was the greatest moment of my life, each and every time. And none of them carry more weight than any other. They might to the fans, they might be on the outside, but for me, it didn't matter. There was no weight to any of them. They all meant the world to me at the time. I'm a 3-time world champion. I won 2 world titles in kickboxing. I won 1 in boxing. I wanted to win another one in boxing. The boxing gods didn't allow that to happen. But for me, every single one of those meant the world to me, because I was so invested. And that's what it takes to be a world champion. You got guys up here who invested their entire lives to what we did, and what we do, and what we still do, in different ways. Anthony, now you're training. You're putting your entire life into this. I know you're giving your blood, sweat, and tears, just like you did as a fighter, now into your fight. Paulie and I work together. We do this every single goddamn day. This is every single day. Even when we're not live, him and I are texting each other, sending memes, sending fights, sending this. Remember this fight? Remember that fight? Remember Ken Norton fought Muhammad Ali? We watch these fights. To this day, on our days off, we eat, sleep, and breathe this sport, even though we're not fighting anymore. And that's what it takes to be anything in boxing. You have to give absolutely everything to this sport. Whether you are a fighter, a trainer, a cutman, a quarterman, a commentator, a pundit, it does not matter. It takes all of you to be good at this. And that's, at the end of the day, I'm satisfied with everything I've ever done because I've given it my all. And when you give it your all, there's nothing to think more about. It is what it is. I did it. It happened. It didn't happen. Whatever. I'm trying. So at the end of the day, in this sport, there's nothing less than old. So that's why we're all here today. This guy too. This guy right here, I know the comedian who's giving us these questions. This guy gives his all to the sport as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm better at matchmaking than stand-up comedy. Did it once, he went, sit the fuck down, you! Exactly, you can see I was shite. So, Anthony, Crolla, and one thing about these two, you were built in Brooklyn. You were built in Paramount in Long Island. You were built in Manchester, in the area. Growing up, a kid in Manchester under Ricky Hatton, you were with that promotions, weren't you? And going on to become world champion, the face of ESPN boxing. I'm going to tell everyone a quick story here. So you go over to America, right? And on ESPN they have Watch Boxing, Top Rank Boxing on ESPN. And it's him getting fucked by Lomachenko. So we're in the boozer in Tampa. And we've not seen each other at this point for about 7 years. We're arcade. Next minute I look up and I think, what's in this Guinness here? And it's him. Fucked basically. Sorry, I'm sorry, mate. But he is, and I felt terrible going around everyone in the bar going, that's my mate on the telly there. Shit, comedian, like I said. Anyway, Anthony, growing up, you know, like I said, growing up under like Ricky Hatton, and it weren't just Rick. It was Ari Farrell, it was, you know, even David Barnes, Paul Bryan Hughes' stable. And coming up, you like the next gen after them, you, Scott Quigg, you know, under Joe Gallagher, who I think's one of my favourite people and amazing trainers, you know, and coming up under him at that time in Manchester and becoming world champions against davies, Perez. How much did it mean doing that in front of your own people?
No, you've got to imagine when I was a young kid going to that Manchester arena for years and like saving up on your birthday present to go and sit in the upper tiers to watch some of the greats of British boxing. Obviously, being a Manchester lad, it was Ricky Hatton, but even before then it was Nazim Ahmed, you know, Tyson was there once and stuff. So to win my world title at that arena where I went to as a kid, it's the most special place on earth. And there's a new arena in Manchester called the Corp Arena, which my younger brother fought on Saturday. Unbelievable, but the Manchester Arena will always be that special place to me. But Chris mentioned it then. I was inspired by a generation there with Ricky. Like every young Manchester lad wanted to be the next Ricky Hatton, and it was like if you went to an amateur show, you'd see those stupid daft long shorts. Every kid would have them on because they wanted to be like Ricky Hatton, and it was a special time. And I know Paulie, he fought in the stadium, didn't he, Paulie? That was the famous top of the airport, wasn't it? But no, it's just a fight in town. I think very much like Belfast. Even before Ricky Hatton, there's a fight called Michael Brody, who was brilliant. He inspired so many. It's just, I think Manchester and Belfast has so many similarities. They're just, you know, a lot of working class people where they can have a fight, and that's exactly what I think. So I think that's probably, I feel like Belfast is home away from home, and yeah, I think there's the next generation coming through now. But to top that arena there, to top the bill at that arena a few times, packing it out, yeah, that was probably the biggest achievement. Winning a world title was great, but topping many bills in Manchester was probably the biggest achievement, so yeah.
Thanks, Sam. There's another fella here, who's down there on his phone, Michael Conlan. You know, he's done that in Belfast, and we might have a few more of them, who knows, if we're lucky. Anyway, but, like you said, I feel, sorry, yeah. So, I've asked a few questions. We've got some boxing journalists in here. You don't need no prerequisites to be a boxing journalist. You literally just turn up and go, I am a boxing journalist. Give me a credential. You can't be asked paying for a fucking ticket. So, I'm going to ask the boxing journalists, who I actually do really appreciate in series, because we've got Matt Leonard down there, and Tom Ivers there from Boxing Team, Boxing Social. So you're going to ask a question each, is that alright? And then let's try and open some more questions. So Matt, I'll come down and you can ask questions. Proudly sponsored by Empire Prototype, it seems.
My question's to Paulie and obviously Chris. I just want to ask, what's the sort of biggest differences you see from the boxing in the States and when you come to Ireland, come to the UK? Obviously the fighters are built different, the production's different. Do you see the differences from overseas from when you come over here?
I feel like there's more invested here as far as emotion, getting behind the fighters. Obviously in the States, we've got 50 United States, right? And I feel like each of those states could be the size of a European country. So if you look at the popularity of some fighters within a certain state, it's pretty big at times within their region. But nationally, it's much harder to get a big following because from one side of the United States to the other side of the United States is a big journey. In Europe, I feel like because each country is sort of the size of a U.S. state, you have a bit better chance to get that national recognition much better. And I think it's helped in making boxing a bigger sport here. Because I noticed, for example, you know, like, not to pick on any particular names, but I need to make one example. Like a Frazier Clark, for example, he's a heavyweight, and I see him, he's on TV, he's a pundit, he's sort of involved in the whole landscape of major TV, and he's a pretty good fighter, but a mid-range fighter like that in the US, nobody would think of him. You know, he would have to be thought of only locally, he would have to build himself to a place where then they start thinking about him, and then you get there. And yes, I understand he won a bronze medal, but he's already been beaten once or twice, and that's not to pick on him, he's a pretty good fighter, but what I'm saying is, I realize people, the national recognition is more, they latch on more to it here, and I think it's a big thing, it's a beautiful thing. That's why we love coming to the UK, because especially the UK, like I said, it's any European country that was the size of the US state, but the UK especially has such a bond with boxing that at all levels, there is a big emotion of a fan base, and the media's covering you, and the media will want to cover you, they'll do articles on you, even at a point where in the US, they're not really thinking about you as much until you get to a certain level. So for me, that's the biggest thing. It's that it gives you more emotion to be motivated because you can see that the appreciation is all there. And like I said, maybe it's just down to the size of the United States. It's just so big that, you know, there are guys who are, like for example, I remember Kelly Pavlik was a big deal in Youngstown, Ohio for a long time, before anybody knew him. And before anybody really knew him nationally. You know, he had to get to that big level before people finally started paying attention to him. But locally, he was a big deal. He sold a lot of tickets, you know. And I guess, you know, that was because the United States is so big. You know, Ohio could be a European country. You know what I'm saying? So it could have already been nationally recognized if that was its own country, but it's not. So I notice that's a big difference, but I think that's also a good thing for the UK boxing scene, for the fighters, for the fans, because even if it's a smaller country, if you stand on a nation, you feel like you're representing more. There's more on your shoulders. You know, there is a national anthem. There is people you're representing, and I think that gives you that motivation from an earlier part. Earlier in the US, you're more so a local phenom, and you're trying to become a bigger deal. So that was what I noticed through the years in my life.
Just quick question to all three, and what advice would you give to these young fighters now who are turning professional, whether they're in the States, the UK, the Middle East, wherever it is? It's a different world now from when you guys fought in terms of social media. I mean, if you sell tickets, you get on the shows, it's not necessarily just based on talent. What would you guys, what's the advice that you would give to these young guys turning over?
You know, I think we actually spoke about that in the press conference earlier, about how you can actually build a brand even before you're a good fighter. You know, and we've seen that. But ideally, you want to be a good fighter first, and then build a brand off that, and then you look to sell from there. I vividly remember coming up, and I was using Facebook because Facebook just came out. I was a college guy. I went to college. I know a lot of fighters don't go to college. I went to college, and Facebook was the thing. And I got introduced to Facebook, and my buddies were telling me about Facebook because they were trying to meet girls. I looked at Facebook and said, I can sell tickets to my fights. So I used Facebook events to sell tickets to my fights. I would verbally sell the tickets on DMs, and then I would do a meet and greet, and then do an exchange where I would sell They'd give me money, I'd give them a ticket, get a t-shirt, do a photo. It was a grassroots campaign. So, me, for example, fighting in the States, because you don't get a lot of this, I was a grassroots fighter. Very, very similar, nice job, Jim, very similar to how fighters are here. There's a lot more grassroots fighters in the UK and in New York than there are in the States. Because of what Paulie said, the States are big, they're wide, they're very far apart, and the venues are very far apart. He mentioned Kelly Patrick. Kelly Patrick was from Ohio. He always big fights were in New Jersey. He had to drive thousands of miles. He had to fly in his fan base, which they did, because they were diehards, to see him fight. I still like that here. It wasn't like how I came up. I sold out my hometown 11 times. It was a 1,200-seat arena. I was selling out every single time because it was my hometown. That's very, very rare in the States. Here, that seems like a much more common thing. You got padraig mccarthy, who's fighting this weekend. Listen, the press conference was packed. The press conference was yelling and exuberant about what's going on. We don't get that in the States. The understanding of the fans here is very, very different. You guys, I've talked to 10 different people who went 10 fights deep in my career here in Belfast and Waterford. That doesn't happen in the States. I run into guys like, oh, I see you fight. Here, I got people telling me like, oh man, when you fought so-and-so, 10 fights ago, that was amazing. I watched that. See, it's a different understanding of the fans here. And for fighters and promoters, everything is different here. And we truly appreciate it. Obviously, you can tell how excited I am talking to the fan base here and the fight fans here, because it's just a different thing. So, yeah, there's definitely a big difference. Going back to your very first question, what is the difference about coming here to Belfast? That's my experience so far.
Honestly, here, as you said, we've had people talk to us about our boxing careers. I don't get stopped in the U.S. about my boxing career anymore. If people stop me in the U.S., it's because of my punditry. Like new generation, they don't even know. I don't resonate as a fighter anymore in the U.S. Very rarely, because things change so fast over there. So when I was getting stopped here all week, people talking about my boxing career, it took me back a little bit because I haven't had to really have those discussions in the U.S.
I didn't think about that, but that's entirely true. In the U.S., everyone talks about my podcast. My podcast partner is as famous as I am in the States, which is odd. We don't talk about fights.
No, I think finally from me, I think any young professional, any young amateur fighter thinking of turning professional, and there's probably a few in here tonight, and we've got an amazing team around him, and obviously a bit of young Barry and stuff, but there's probably a few amateur boxers in here tonight. When you turn professional, unless you've got that Olympic medal, unless you've got something like that, be prepared to lose money. Be prepared to lose money. It takes time. I've got a few lads now in the gym, one or two of them I think are definitely good enough to go with one of the big promoters, to go with the TV promoters. We've not had the chance yet. They're selling tickets, they're just about straight, might go out to work as well. They could easily go to work and earn a much better wage than they've earned the last few years. One of the lads took basically nothing home the last 2 years from boxing. When you break it down, it's costing because if you have a normal job, he'd be earning a weekly wage, do you know what I mean? It's such a tough sport, and my biggest, I don't know if it's advice, but it's probably a warning. A warning is like, listen, you be prepared to be skimmed for a few years. People think you turn professional, it's like signing a football contract. It's nothing like that. If you're not an Olympian or something like that, or someone with a huge background, it's going to cost you to turn professional. And that's why it's so important, like the guys have said, to try and build a brand, to try and be interested to see where you say, would you advise some of the fighters to have a job as well? To have them taking over. That's what it is, it's not all glitz and glamour. Yeah, so otherwise you'll end up eating life. So I think a lot of young professionals, they've got to find a little bit of a job, so they've got a little bit of an income, so they're not broke. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's advice, it's probably, yeah, it is advice. It is advice, so yeah, that's my biggest thing for any young amateur thinking of turning professional.
Cheers. I want to piggyback off that real quick. Jamie Conlan actually asked me before, he goes, did you work? And I said, yeah. The fight week, I'm fighting Russo and Pavanikov. I'm fighting an HBO World Championship fight. On a Wednesday, I'm teaching a ladies kickboxing class. Cutting weight. They all came to the fight, but I'm sitting there like basically sucking on an apple because I couldn't really eat it. And teaching the ladies kickboxing class so I could make a little bit of money before the fight. This is the week of the title fight. And these young fighters, they tell me, they're like, I gotta work. I'm like, so? What the fuck is that? Yeah, you gotta work. Of course you gotta work. Because, like you said, that everyone should listen to that. It's going to cost you money to turn pro. My nephew is a pretty good amateur. He won a couple tournaments in New York State, whatever. He wanted to turn pro. This is 2 weeks ago. I go, hey Mike, you can make your pro career a lot easier and a lot cheaper if you go and win nationals. You didn't win nationals yet? Go win nationals. Then let's talk. I want 20 more fights out of you, kid. 20 more fights, try and win nationals. I'm not saying you're gonna win it, but listen, you're gonna make your life a lot easier and a lot cheaper. Because pro fights are not cheap. It costs money to be a pro. So that was a fantastic caveat that I think a lot of people don't understand.
Thanks, lads. So I'm going to bring Jono in here. Ask him first question of the night, and please feel free to put your hand up and ask questions. But go on, Jono.
Hey lads, well done Tony for what you just said earlier. This is a question I want to bring up, and fair play to you for tackling the throat. A decade on a scumbag. Fair play.
Thank you.
No worries. What the question was going to be was, are any of you guys in the boxing union, and would you advise any boxer to be in the boxers union or join the union?
So, do you know what? That's a big talking point at the minute where they're trying to do it, and it's simple. I don't know what it's like in America. The funds simply aren't there with the British Boxing Board of Control. So I'm involved in something called Project Boxing, where we try and find jobs for either retired fighters or apprentices for young up-and-coming fighters, because, like we say now, there's the smallest of margins of fighters who can finish their boxing career and they can live financially, smallest percentages, sorry. It's very, very rare. So again, just like Michael was saying then, he encourages a lot of his young fighters to have a job early on in their professional careers. But now, like, I wish I knew now what I knew back then. I wish I knew back then what I knew now. And it'd be all like, no, get something to fall back on. Get something to fall back on. So that's what we're trying to do. But, you know, do you know, like with the football have the FA, they have do you know what I mean, the PFA and stuff like that. Yeah. Boxing hasn't got that. It's a lonely, horrible sport at times when you finish. There was a young lad who was meant to fight weekend, Michael Gomez. Do you all remember Michael Gomez? And his father, his dad's fell on hard times. I'm not speaking out of turn here, it's pretty common knowledge. And he had some of the most entertaining nights. And it's like, now there's no one there to help him. And listen, Michael, you're not putting I'm not helping myself with some of my decisions. But I know so many fighters, and I'm sure you guys do, entertain and entertain. Listen, I remember, Paulie, I remember going into the wild card, and there's some fighters in there. And in fact, Paulie was one of very few, wasn't he? He was so switched on. Who I looked up to and watched on TV. And they were so punch drunk, and there was like, it's, their life now is going to be a bit, no matter what they've got in the bank, their value, their quality of life. They've got kids,
Michael Watson.
Michael Watson, no course. I mean, that was a rare thing, but I mean, there was like, do you remember Cassie Newmore? Do any of you remember the fight of Cassie Newmore?
Yes.
Oh, he was unbelievably talented, wasn't he? And he's fighting as a journeyman and stuff, and you can't imagine what, and that's what I think about, for instance, you might not like to say it, Joe Derek Chisora.
Yeah.
He's got a great amount of money in the bank. And my worry for Derek, I'm with Derek 20 years.
I know, but
he's going to be getting pushed around, honestly. I sound brutal here. There's a great chance he'll get pushed around in a few years.
Look at the promoters.
I love the guy.
Look at the promoters get, and they're going to Saudi Arabia, you know where else?
Yeah.
And the boxers are getting nothing. And these guys are taking their shots on the team like I did.
No, yeah.
As a kid.
And people don't realise it's a brutal sport.
And then it's come through drug dealers and all the rest of it.
Do you know what I say? Before I pass it over to these boys, I always say this thing, right? Boxing loves nobody. boxing is very, very cruel. It loves absolutely nobody. So if you stay too long in boxing, it will take more from you than you take from boxing. And that's, sadly, that's what we've all got to realise. It's, as much as we love it, it's a dirty, dirty business at times, and there's no self-care. I believe here now, you meet some of the best people in boxing. You'll meet some of the worst people in boxing as well. But yeah.
Thank you.
Talking along that point, I always say there's 4 things a fighter wants to do when they leave this sport. 1, they want to be world champion. So getting a title is number 1. And we will do anything for that. We will damage ourselves to do that. We will injure ourselves to do that. We will go broke to do that. Talk about how much money it costs to be a fighter. Number 2, we want to make money, right? You want to walk away from the sport with money. Doing those 2 things, you're already in the top 0.001%. Third one is you want to walk away with your health, which a lot of fighters don't. A lot of guys walk away with a title, and they walk away with money, and they don't walk away with their health. They can't speak, they can't walk, they can't function. It's a terrible part of this business. And then lastly, and this is an extra caveat, you want to have one epic night. If you can walk away from the sport with a title, with money, your brain cells, and an epic night, there's nothing else you could ever do in the sport. And we've all had these, and we're all satisfied human beings, and that's ideal. But it is the rarest thing that you can come by. You got 3 guys right here who've done all 4 of those things, and that we're 0.00001%.
Yeah, we look you up.
Yeah.
You're smart, but
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say the word luck, but yeah, we're fucking lucky. Because we all got out of this, and we also have a career to go afterwards, which is even more rare. This is the best sport in the world, it's the worst business. I've always said that. Boxing is a nasty bitch, and it will take everything from you if you let it. And you're fighting tooth and nail to not allow that to happen each and every day, and we still are. The fight doesn't stop. Just because we're retired, we're not fighting in the ring anymore, we're still fighting tooth and nail for this sport. And that's just what this sport's about. As wonderful and beautiful as it is a mean, ugly, nasty bitch.
Cheers, lads. Can I bring you in now?
I just wanted to know how, well, it's a 2-part question there. Firstly, a prime Algieri v prime Malignaggi at 140. Who wins that one? And secondly, for Anthony, I just wonder, with rumours of Lomachenko retiring, what do you think about that, and where do you think he would fit into the 135-pound landscape at the minute?
okay. Go on, I'll let the boys
I don't know,
answer.
honestly, it depends on which night, you know. I have good nights in my prime, and I have bad nights in my prime, so it depends on which night. For me, honestly, Chris could have won on some nights, I don't won on some nights. You know, your prime is still a bunch of different days every single year, you know. So you're better some days than you are other days.
We wouldn't need to have at least a trilogy. Like we could have been one of those guys. Because there's so many different ways that we could fight. Like if I tried to box him, then we got a like legit high IQ boxing match. If I tried to fucking fight him, then we got a whole different kind of fight. You know, because I could do both. I had a lot of different ways to fight, in which we sold throughout my career depending on who I was fighting. So one wouldn't have been enough. We would have had to make a lot of money together.
And because Chris came from kickboxing, he's also a little younger than me, and he got a late start. My prime was coming to an end as his prime was his beginning. So if we would have caught each other, probably wouldn't have been a good night for me because, you know, he was coming into his prime as I was exiting my prime. So if we would have caught each other, that would have been the time to catch each other, but it didn't happen. In our primes, it would have been nice, what do you guys call it, derby, New York versus New York, right?
Yeah, the one about Lomachenko, it was Mike just before I come out. I saw, I think it was you, Matt, the Boxing Social, Paulie was doing something, and I'm very much of, I think it was about Gervonta Davis, and I always say this, I think Gervonta Davis could be a very special fighter, but I genuinely don't know how special he is, because his whole career, like, it's always been like, yeah, it's never been, I'm going to fight this guy at his very best. That's just my opinion. There's no denying he's an unbelievable puncher. We didn't want to fight Lomachenko when Lomachenko was anywhere near his best. Now there's talk of it. But where does Lomachenko fit in at the 135 landscape? Listen, I thought, like most, he was very, very unlucky not to get the decision against Devin Haney. So if that was the case, then he would have become undisputed, wouldn't he? I'm right in saying, or unified. I think now, and it's mad, you know, if you think at every fight at 135, he'd probably still start near the favourite. Probably the only fight when I might have got it wrong. Probably the only fighter where I wouldn't like him against is Shakur Stevenson. I just think stylistically, at this point, he might just be that little bit fresher. I might be wrong.
Bigger too.
Yeah, that little bit bigger too as well. And I just think, but what he's done has been unbelievable. I think he's one of the greatest amateur boxers that's ever lived, genuinely. And as a professional, he didn't always go his way, but he dared to be great. He really did. So, where does he fit in? Do I think he's a future Hall of Famer? Yeah, I do, for what he's done on both goals. But yeah, no, he's still an unbelievably hard night's work, I think, for anyone in boxing around those weights.
I just wonder, who's your favourite fighter that ever came around? Favourite or best?
Is this for all of us?
Yeah, just for
For all of us, oh wow. There's so many. I think it's obviously the likes of Barry McGuigan was before me. I've ended up becoming good friends with Carl Frampton, and he brought some special nights, you know, back to Ireland. But I don't know, Ireland, Belfast is a very special place, isn't it? I think the guy who's just over there, Michael, he's brought some amazing nights, some of the best ring walks you'll ever see. Not just ring walks, but some of the best nights you'll see. So, do you know what? You'll have to probably come back to me there with that. But yeah, I think in recent times, Carl has been one of them. But if I remember now when I come back, but I just want to see some of the amateurs come through. I've always said it, mate. I think Ireland's got the most unbelievable amateur set up, and I feel like they don't get the support they deserve to turn professional and become stars. That's just my opinion, and it's mad, and it's not just because he's caught me eye again. Like I was genuinely saying that I was in a recovery club just then, like a gym, doing a little bit. Anto Kikacha, one of your own, you know. I remember in 2016, Anto brought sparring, brought him over sparring. 8 years later, he's winning his world title, and the lad who was in the recovery club, he plays for one of the football teams in the Irish Premier, he's telling me the street was having a party when he won it that night. I love that. That's where it's more than boxing, you know. A community is all streets celebrating Anto off the estate, and I'm sure if it weren't for the likes of Michael, he would have walked away from boxing for years. Do you know when you talk about the minimum wage? He probably less than the minimum wage for years because he didn't get any fights. He stuck with it, he's got his reward. So now I think that's the kind of stories I want to see from boxing, and Anto Kikacha is one of them. So yeah, I'll pass you over to Chris, his favourite Irish fighter, Paulie.
So you're probably gonna think I'm gonna say Carl Frampton because we fucking look alike. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I have 0% Irish in me. I don't understand how we look so much alike. But I did meet him in person. We didn't look alike in person. But I just fought. I was a little thin. He was on the Guinness. He was a little fat. But regardless, great guy. Love him. Awesome fighter. Really enjoyed him for many years. But for me, it was always I love Barry. Man. Barry, I fucking love Barry. I fucking love Barry. He stylistically, intellectually, boxing IQ. Collins was a fucking badass, but he was a little before me. So him, I just because he beat so many good fighters, he's on my list. But I think Barry's even as I think he's a fucking awesome pundit too. I think he's fantastic on the mic, which speaks to him as a fighter. If you look at all the pundits, all the former fighters who become pundits, they were all good boxers. They were all smart boxing IQ guys. If you look at myself, you look at Paulie, you look at Tim Bradley, you look at Andre Ward, look at Barry, they're all very intelligent fighters, and that I always like those kinds of fighters. I grew up liking those kind of fighters, so Barry's probably important. But Carl, you're there too.
Yeah, I mean, I love what both these guys are saying. Carl Frampton is a great pioneer for Irish boxing in the minor days. Steve Collins was an awesome fighter in a very difficult era. I think Steve Collins represented Irish boxing both on these shores and worldwide, because those were rivalries that transcended these UK shores and also crossed over into other parts of the world, because they were at world-class level, all those super middleweights of the world. And I also want to give a shout out to a friend of mine who we hear from each other in text every once in a while and still talk, is Wayne McCullough. And Wayne, nobody talks about the pocket rocket either. Wayne was an Olympic silver medalist, and the only thing that stopped him from winning a gold medal was Joe Casamayor. In the Olympic finals, Wayne lost to Joe Casamayor in the Olympic finals. So, to be separated from a gold medal by Joe Casamayor, hey, that could happen anyway. Otherwise, on a different Olympic year, who knows, Wayne might win a gold medal, So you gotta mention Wayne as well. He's sort of close below the radar. Probably one of the best chins in boxing history. That dude had a granite chin as well, but was a solid technical boxer. Was one of the guys who went the distance with Nassim Ahmed when Nassim was knocking everybody out. I remember that fight being around Halloween, actually. That was a Halloween fight back in 26 years ago now. Time flies, right? I remember that fight. And Wayne is a sturdy chin guy, good technical boxer. I also want to give a shout out to a guy who didn't win a world championship, but is one of the best people I've ever met in the whole sport of boxing. And let me tell you, in boxing there isn't that many good people, but John Duddy was an awesome guy. One of the best people I've ever met in boxing. So I would be remiss to not mention John as one of my personal favorite Irish boxers, because I can also remember how he used to fill out the Gator Madison Square Garden. John was so popular without winning a world championship that he could have fought one of the bus boys in the theater and it would have sold out. People love John, and there was a reason for that. If you ever meet John, he is a salt-of-the-earth kind of person. One of the best people I met in Irish sport, and he was obviously a very exciting fighter, because you don't sell tickets just because you're a nice guy. You got to actually put on a show. And John, honestly, is the kind of fighter we would appreciate at Pro Box, because he's of that level where he puts on great fights, but he came up a bit short of world championship honors. But I've known John forever. I actually first met him in the amateurs at our USA vs. Ireland duel. He was on the Irish team when we fought against them on our side. And then obviously he started training in New York and we became friendly. So yeah, John Duddy gets a mention from me as well.
Alright, so I can't not mention John now that you mentioned it. It completely blew my mind. So I did a play with John. And John was the main character. I was just in the play with her. He is the most likable fucking guy ever. So, listen, granted his fights were fun, he kicked ass, but he was just such a likable gentleman. That guy was something else, man. Yeah, John Duddy, not the best fighter in the world, but definitely a good guy.
But also, again, being a nice guy, he's fun. He jokes around. Again, it's like, I could tell you somebody's a good guy, but he could be boring, John is one of the best people I've met in boxing, because for me, I also enjoy being around him. He's a nice guy. Some people are nice people, but after a certain point, you're kind of bored. But John actually, you can't get bored around John. He's a good guy, but he's a funny guy too.
Okay, we're gonna have one more question, and then that's it.
I guess many outlets at times will obviously ask people what's wrong in the sport of boxing. You've all been world champions in the sport. What was it the one thing you disliked the most about boxing, and what would you do to change it?
The one thing that I dislike the most about boxing, I think that there's fighters out there, some are getting away with it, well, a lot are getting away with it. I think these boys have brought it up. People who are getting done for pets. I think, I've always said it, boxing's a very dangerous sport. It doesn't need to be made any more dangerous by fighters taking performance-enhancing drugs. And it's the bans that they get. Do you know what I mean? I think some people need to start doing. I think when someone gets found guilty, they need to be set an example of, to put off other fighters doing it. And some people go, why would you risk it? I'll tell you why, it's a little bit different. Lance Armstrong is the wealthiest cyclist that's ever lived. it was a raging cheat. And you could go, oh, Walter was cheating, but that doesn't make it right. And there's fighters out there who fail tests, they're getting huge paydays that I don't agree with it. I don't. So if I could change one thing in boxing, it'd be the drug testing. And I know it's hard to man that, I wish there could be more. But you know, once a fighter gets caught, they've got to be blacklisted a little bit. That's just my opinion.
Anthony, I love that. I mean, in a perfect world, absolutely, but it's never going to change because that's sport, and that's this sport, and it's a dirty sport. So I'll go a different route. For me, what the thing needs to change is we need to stop obsessing over the O. We need fighters to fight each other. If the best fight the best all the time, guys are going to lose, and we should not diminish them because they lose to great fighters. In the 80s, that didn't happen. Sugar Ray, Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler, the four kings all fought each other. Everybody lost. You should be allowed to lose. You're fighting great fighters. Too many of these guys are hand-picking their opponents, padding their records, and then we're looking at them like they're the best pound-for-pound guy. No. You can have a loss and still be the best fighter in the world. Historically, the best fighters in the world have losses. There's nothing wrong with that. So, for me, we just need to make the fights. We're seeing some of it now. We're seeing it in the heavyweight division because of Riyadh. We're seeing it in some of the lighter divisions. 154 has been stellar. These guys are fighting each other. 175, we're starting to get these fights. The problem is when we have these elitist champions, the Canelo Alvarez's, 135 is ridiculous. We got 4 champions who are undefeated. I don't know how the hell that happens. You got 4 undefeated guys. They all have a title. How the fuck does that happen? Fight each other. Do a tournament. It should be easy. It makes too much sense for them not to be fighting each other. They can all make money together too. But everyone's so afraid to lose their zero. Because all the pressure that's put on by having that 1, or that 2, or that 3 on the end of your name, or that drug. We need to get rid of that. Floyd ruined the sport with the undefeated record. Fuck undefeated record. Fight guys, lose, fight them again. Try and beat them. We're fighters, we fight. It's not about being perfect, it's about being a fighter. So that's my number 1. But my number 1 thing is actually what he's doing. I don't want to talk about the same thing.
Yeah, both of these guys actually said things that I wholeheartedly agree with them would say, and I don't know that either of those things is actually going to change. But you know, I feel like when it comes to PED testing, I feel like there is the money there. You know, everybody makes like there isn't the money there. I feel like with these sanctioning bodies making 75,000 titles per weight class, you know, in terms of every possible regional name for a title they come up with. Then for every regional title they have, they also make a silver title as well. So there's actually every single belt they can think of, and then there's a silver version of that same exact title. So think about how many sanctioning fees they're collecting in every single weight class. There is plenty of money to be mandatorily and regularly drug tested in your top 15 in all your ratings, constantly. And it should be a constant thing, it should be a regular thing. It's that they don't want to, because when you have guys on performance-enhancing drugs, this is what happens with the money. Guys can extend their careers, they can be dominant, but they can also extend their careers. I started realizing at the end of my career, I was getting my most popular when my prime was ending. And it was like almost like a shame, like, wow, you know what, I can really magnify my money if I can hang around at this level, but I can't, you know? So when you have performance-enhancing drugs, guys don't age, really, you know, or they age a lot slower. If you notice, all kinds of age records have been broken of late, you know, because, you know, it's obviously drug testing, you know? You lose testosterone in your body every year past 30 years old. So there is no way a 40-year-old should be competing at a world-class level against a world-class 30-year-old. You can maybe a world-class 40-year-old against a subpar 30-year-old, okay, you know what? You know, I can give it to you. But there are in other words, there's no way it should be happening unless they are synthetic testosterone boosted on top of everything else. It's just, that's just a natural part of it, you know? Everything else, you know, as far as the punishments are concerned, it's again, money unfortunately rules and they make exceptions for money. Canelo failed a drug test at a 6-month suspension. Is that even a suspension? That's his normal break. Then that's why I told somebody today, I said, well, that's why when Billy Joe Saunders failed the drug test, I couldn't even get mad at him because he's chasing the guy that he just saw got a slap on the wrist for failing his drug test. So what is he supposed to do, really, right? So what happens is it's a trickle-down effect and it creates a dilemma where the whole support side's doing it. So either you fix it wholeheartedly or you don't touch it. I think it's one or the other. Either you let them kill each other like dogs, let them all do it, or you fix it wholeheartedly. You can't do the in the middle thing. You can't do that. You know, and that's sort of what they do to sort of try to pretend like they're trying to clean it up. They're really not trying to clean it up. And then, what was the other thing? What did you say? People fighting each other. Yeah, you know what? I'll give you a quick on that. Stop talking about pound for pound lists. If you notice, who gets on pound for pound lists? It's guys who don't fight each other because if you avoid each other, it gives you an incentive to be on the pound for pound list. I know guys like Noe, I know he do fight everybody, he's on the pound for pound list. That's more of a rarity. For the most part, you got guys that are top level pound for pound guys don't want to fight each other because if they fight each other, they may get beat and they don't end up on the pound for pound list. And what happened? These bullshit pound for pound lists, they become bargaining chips for them to get more money. So therefore, it gives them incentive to avoid guys to do things like that. So stop talking about that, and then stop. And then honestly, I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but it's not that difficult to do. Just stop buying pay-per-views from these Hollywood fighters. If they fight somebody they shouldn't be fighting, stop purchasing the pay-per-views. You know, that's the only way you're fully forced to fight. If they see you keep being suckers and you keep watching them and buy their pay-per-views when they fight the guy preserving the Guinness tonight, and you know it's not, I'm sorry, but you know it's what incentive do they have not to do that? So you know, reward the guys that lose. And I'm talking about the champion. You're talking about, you know, you can lose. It's not about losing. Reward guys for the way they lose. If you lose and you lose badly, listen, I'm not telling you you gotta be rewarded if you lose. This isn't everybody gets a medal day. You know, it's not one of those kind of sports. But if you lose impressively, you should still be able to hang around it. You know, like look at now. They signed Madrimov and Bovic. The loser is going to have lost 2 fights in a row. Should the loser of that fight be punished for going after the best constantly? Or should even Zoo? You know what I'm saying? Or should you be rewarded in some way where you say, okay, these guys are competitive, these guys are fighting at that level, you know? And honestly, I hate to say it, it's mostly Western fighters doing this. Eastern fighters, they don't know any better yet, because communism just ended a few decades ago. All they know is to try to fight the best. They don't understand that yet. But if you keep letting these Western fighters get away with it, they're going to eventually influence the Eastern fighters. The Eastern fighters are going to say, man, I'm doing this wrong. These guys are stealing all the money. So stop rewarding it. Stop putting these guys on pound for pound lists, or stop talking about pound for pound lists altogether. Because you guys, honestly, in the media and in fans, you help this out when you do that. You don't help this out. You know, overall, you're hurting your bottom line. There's no way Jamaica Davis at this point should still be fighting guys like Lamar Roach in the title defense. Charging pay-per-view. No way Canelo Alvarez should charge pay-per-view fight Edgar Belanda. I always tell people, Oscar De La Hoya was already a pay-per-view fighter. When he fought Patrick Charpentier, you guys are probably too young to love this. When he fought Patrick Charpentier, he took himself off of pay-per-view for that fight. He didn't say, oh, you know what, I want pay-per-view, let me just stay on pay-per-view. He realized it wasn't the guy at the level of pay-per-view, and he wanted to put himself on regular HBO. If these guys want to fight those kind of fights, even if they're pay-per-view fighters, their fight should be on pay-per-view. If they are, then you guys shouldn't buy the fights. Guys, stop buying them. And don't write good about them because you want credentials. And otherwise, again, I know you don't want to hurt their feelings and they deny you the credentials. But then what happens? You still get the same problem. You want to fix the problem, or you want to continue. You want to go to jail, or you want to go home. Denzel said that in training day.
Okay. We're going to have Paulie take it.
No, I gotta push back. I'm gonna push back. This guy talks about Eastern fighters all the time.
You know why? Because he beat an Eastern fighter for his world title, so he rates them a little less. He says, they can be broken. They're not a machine. They're men. That was Rocky IV.
I always say, the Eastern fighters don't bend, they break. But regardless, he always talks about the Western fighters are the same as Eastern fighters, which for the most part is absolutely true. But I'm going to tell you, Mexican fighters want to fight fucking everyone. Bam Rodriguez.
Except Canelo. Except for Canelo. I know this guy. Hard bastards. I know.
So, you're going to mention Canelo when they cut you off?
I know this guy hates Canelo. I know he always talks about Canelo. Other than Canelo, the Mexican fighters want all the smoke, and they always have. So we cannot just say Eastern fighters. Mexicans have been doing this forever. Yes, Canelo is the star of the sport. Yes, he's the money train right now. Yes, he picks and chooses his fights. But the rest of them do not. Bam Rodriguez wants to fight fucking everybody. David Benavidez wants to fight fucking everybody. These guys are what the lifeblood of this sport is about. Just like the Eastern fighters. They're willing to fight everybody, but the Mexicans are the same way.
So, the only Mexican, obviously, all of us care about is Rudy Garcia. right now. Obviously, he's coming to fucking fight on Friday night. He's got Eddie Minoso's assistant with him. Like, they're coming to win. Yeah, Minoso's assistant's here.
Yeah, I mean, you're not coming across the world to take a loss. Everyone else is not coming here to lose. These guys are coming to fight. That's a fantastic matchup. Really looking forward to that one. It's a great fight.
Okay, 2 more questions and then we're done.
I've only got one. Which is your favourite governing body that does everything sort of nearly perfectly? In boxing.
Do you know what? I don't know if I've got a favourite because sometimes I think it's crazy. Listen, I rate the fact the IBF make the mandatory like they have to fight, but then it also makes a mess of things like the Turby Evan Bivol, great fight. They've now unified the titles straight away. That's going to come apart. I've got to be honest, I don't think I've got a favourite one. Listen, for me, my favourite one, 9 times out of 10, I think they get it right, is the Ring Magazine belt. It's not a governing body, but I think if you've got that, you're doing something right.
No comment.
I don't have any of my favorites. I think the WBC does a great job at PR, so everybody just rates them the most, but that's just because they have a great public relations team. That's not because they're actually the best. As far as pro fighters' contracts, I'm sure these guys are the same kind of contract. If you win any of the sanctioning body major world championships and before, your minimums go up. So to us as fighters, we just wanted to grab any of those 4. As far as the Ring Magazine title, I somewhat echo Anthony's sentiments, except for the fact that the Ring Magazine title, they don't strip people unless they retire. So sometimes guys can just jump up weight classes, don't fight in a weight class for 3 years, and that weight doesn't move the title. Aside from that, I feel like at least is an attempt at doing the right thing. And they don't take sanctioning fees, which is nice.
Why are we paying them? That's my question. Why are we paying governing bodies? They should pay their champions.
Also, the fact that they make all these little titles, if you really think about it, it's just an extortion fee. Those little titles all put you in the rankings. Essentially, all you're doing is paying to be in the rankings. But it's disguised as a little worthless belts, because all the regional titles are worthless. They're just nice shiny trinket, whether intercontinental or international or whatever else, the Caribbean title, whatever they make. They're all just extortion fees. If you really look between the lines, you're just paying to get in the rankings. And they disguise it with a belt so it doesn't look like it's extortion. Otherwise, it would be extortion.
See, when I was coming up, I wasn't stupid, and my promoter used to come to me, hey, we're going to fight for this regional belt. And I said, no. Whatever the money costs for that belt, because I knew it cost money, I said, pay me extra. I don't care about the belt. He goes, oh, Chris, it's good for ranking. I said, no. You know what's good for ranking? Me beating everybody. I'm going to beat everyone, and I'm going to get to the position to fight for a world title. I don't give a shit about rankings. I don't give a shit about regional titles. That's why I don't have a lot of regional titles. I turned them all down. Oh, New York State title? I don't give a fuck about New York State title. I care about a world championship. I see the only title I care about.
I played the game. I wanted to get the titles. I wanted to get in the rankings. Because, I felt like it might help me get to a title faster. But I also didn't defend any of them. Because once you win the title, you can vacate it. You've already been put in the rankings. So those kind of titles, I never defended them. I would win them and drop them. That way I wouldn't have to pay extra sanction fees. Anthony, what was your experience with regional titles?
I don't know, I'm trying to think. I think there was one that kind of knew me up, but then I never ended up going down that route anyway, and I think the title I ended up fighting for, it was a bit of a voluntary shot anyway, so no, I'm with you boys. I think a lot of these titles, I think over here, I think there's a lot of fighters who bypass the domestic titles and they'll try and make out an international or an intercontinental is worth more than one of domestic titles. It's absolutely not. So, like Paulie and Chris said, a lot of those intercontinental, international titles, it's smart promoting to get you in those rankings. That's just God's honest truth.
I tell you though, again, it's a big difference with Europe. You see, the domestic titles in Europe mean a lot, and it actually gives you a lot of fanfare. Being an English champion, being in Italy, being an Italian champion. I mean, Italy's not big in boxing. Somebody, we go to the gym, like, oh, that guy's an Italian champion. For me as an American, I was like, and what? But it's a big deal. So again, with these smaller countries, I feel like the domestic titles they build up enough fanfare, but those regional titles, it's like I said, I mean, they're just extortion fees disguised as title shots or continental title shots or whatever you want to call it.
Although I wish I had more of those belts at this stage, I probably should have done it.
Okay.
That's it, we good?
One more, and then we're done.
Of course.
Tom Ivers here, and what I love about Tom is he boxes Salisbury Museum of Crew, and he writes about boxing, so he actually knows something about it, which is rare for a boxing writer. So you can ask the last question, and then we're going to finish by your picks for tomorrow.
On Friday even.
Cool, so.
What I want to know, you've all three had a fantastic career, achieved something only a young boxer can only dream of. If you could do it all again, what was the one thing you maybe changed and your biggest regret?
Do you know what? Without being cheesy, I think everything happens for a reason, though. So you think that the mistakes you make then become lessons you learn from it. So I can't say I change anything. Listen, I think going with the right coach first time round would have helped, but that then gave me the lessons I needed. So that's it really. I can't really think of anything else, you know, like that. I think I mentioned it earlier, probably had that little bit of a backup plan for after boxing, which I'd always encourage somebody fights. So that's it really.
Well, you were a model on the radio. Go on, Chris.
Well, what is a pipe dream? I wish I had amateur boxing fights because I had zero, and I turned pro immediately after kickboxing. But that's a whole different thing. Number one, not sign with Joe DeGuardia. Started boxing because he's just a shit shoestring promoter. Number two, I would have took a lot more shit. That's it. I would have talked myself into more fights, just like this fucking guy did.
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was with a shoemaker promoter, so I had to talk shit just to you know, put my name out there.
He told me how fucked I was. I didn't realize it. I didn't realize how fucked I was until this guy told me my promoter was a piece of shit. So.
But you know, everybody has reputations in the business, so they kind of know ahead of time. So I mean, listen, you know, sometimes I say I would have changed this trainer sooner, or I would have signed this contract, or not signed this contract and signed that contract instead. I don't know. You don't always know how green the grass is on the other side either. So I know how it ended. 2 world championships, and I'm doing okay today. So I'm glad. And like I said before, I've got a lot of memories. There's certain things maybe I wish I'd done differently, but if I did them differently, I don't know for sure how well it would have went the other way around. I can only
Don't get mad.
I can only know, you know, it's like the space-time continuum in Back to the Future. You ever see Back to the Future? Change one thing, everything changes, you know? So, I don't know.
Butterfly effect.
Yeah, yes, Butterfly Effect too, exactly. That was another good movie. I don't know, man. So I can't say for sure. There's things, man, if you tell me in private, I'll complain about this guy or that, I will do that. But I don't know that I have the other alternative answer either. Like, that I change to what? Because if you change to what? What would I do if I didn't go with this coach, I went with that coach? How would that have been? What would I do if I signed this contract instead of that contract? I don't know how it would have went. You know, I think maybe it would have been its own challenges. I know the way it turned out, I'm satisfied, you know? The only thing I wish was different, because I hadn't had any power in that, is my hands. I mean, I had really bad hands. And, you know, if I had maybe healthier hands, maybe it would have been a little bit better for me. But that's different.
Yeah, I wish I had a bigger dick too.
Yeah, well, we always start, right?
Well, I was going to ask you to fit his beard, his shag, but we might be here for a while. Last question.
Chris, you've been on the last question for the last 5 questions, but then when it gets asked, you're like, oh, mine, we're going to be until tomorrow.
Fuck off back to Turkey with your fake hair, you twat.
I did go to Turkey, by the way.
I know, yeah. Should have put your head in the fucking, whose fight was it? Was mine though? Yeah. Okay, last question. What's your fight of the night for Friday night? Croll start, and then that's it.
I can't say anything other than man, Robbie Davis Jr. If it's anything like last time, but listen, it's a great card throughout. I know that sounds bad, but that's very much a pro box. The Conlan card, I think this card's got a bit of everything, prospects, fighters having one last roll of dice, title fights, 50-50 fights. Kurt Walker fight with Garcia fight's a great fight. If I didn't say Robbie, I'd probably say that.
Main event for me, that's a nail biter. Nail biter. I think the first 90 seconds of that fight are going to be high intensity, high stress. You know, because these guys can both punch, and you don't want to blink in that fight. And I think for the first 3 rounds, that is high level tightrope walking between those two, because they can both really punch. So, yeah, the main event. Paulie and Camilo is, yeah, I mean, both guys can punch, so that's a great fight.
Go with the guy who's battle tested. If Fortuna has anything left, Robbie Davis is a guy who's really, really impressed me the last time out. So if Fortuna has anything left, because Fortuna is an ex-world champion who's very, very sneaky, just depends how he shows up. If Fortuna has anything left, Davies and Fortuna for me is the best fight of the night. That's it, Chris.
Guys, thanks very much for coming out. Really appreciate your support. Champs, thanks so much.
Thank you all. Really appreciate you guys hanging out. Good time.
God bless, and thanks to the white folks as well for having us. Cheers, thank you.